Usually, it used to be the east coast of India which would witness more cyclones every year. But scientists now believe that the Arabian Sea is fast becoming the hotbed of cyclones. Climatologists say that rising temperature could be turning the Arabian Sea into the new cyclone generator.
Cyclone Tauktae has pummeled India's western coast from Kerala and Tamil Nadu to Maharashtra and Gujarat. It is the first major cyclone to originate in the Arabian Sea, long considered peaceful this year. Since 1891, conventional wisdom in climatology put the average number of cyclones building in the North Indian Ocean at 5 a year. Only one of the 5 emerged in the Arabian Sea. However, in the past 3 to 4 years, Arabian Sea seems to have become a hotbed of cyclones. In 2018, while the Bay of Bengal maintained its average 4 cyclones a year, the Arabian Sea produced 3 cyclonic storms. In 2019, the Arabian Sea overtook the Bay of Bengal with 5 cyclones to 3. In 2020, the Bay of Bengal produced 3 cyclonic storms, while the Arabian Sea generated 2. In May end and early June, 3 cyclones had made news, 2 including Nisarga in the Arabian Sea and Amphan in the Bay of Bengal. Scientists attribute increased frequency of cyclones in the Arabian Sea to climate change. Climate scientist Hiroyuki Murakami in his study found that 64% of cyclones in the Arabian Sea in recent years were caused by climate change. Scientists studying cyclones have observed that the surface temperature in the Arabian Sea has been rising for about 40 years. Heat is food for cyclones. The temperature in the Bay of Bengal usually remains above 28 degrees Celsius. The Arabian Sea, in contrast, used to have temperature 1 to 2 degrees Celsius lower than that in the Bay of Bengal. Now the rise in temperature in the Arabian Sea has pushed it in the 30 to 31 degrees Celsius zone of India's west coast, especially in the midsection around Goa. Tauktae originated in the same region. If climate change keeps pushing sea surface temperatures in the Arabian Sea on the same pattern, its cyclonic equation with the Bay of Bengal may change forever. Bureau Report, India Today.
With me on the broadcast at this time is Mahesh Palawat. He's with the SkyMet weather team. Dr. Roxy Matthew Call is the scientist at the Indian Institute of Tropical Meteorology. First, if you can tell us about what you're picking up about this cyclone now. Dr. Roxy Matthew Cole, you've seen so many cyclones. How does this compare with everything that we've seen in the recent past?
Well, thanks, Rahul, for calling me in this important discussion. And in fact, I was listening to the news where Aditya Thackeray was saying that Maharashtra has never seen a cyclone like this before. And I would like to give an interesting stat on that. This is, in fact, or most probably, the first ever extremely severe cyclone to come so close to Mumbai since the year of 1891. That is like the last 130 years. So, well, there was a cyclone, severe cyclone in 1948 when it hit north of Mumbai, but we don't know if that was an extremely severe cyclone. But that aside, this is the first extremely severe cyclone to come so close to Mumbai. So, in fact, what Aditya Thackeray said is more or less right. And we are seeing more and more of these kind of cyclones coming up in the Arabian Sea. In fact, our study shows that both the frequency, that the number of cyclones, and also their intensity are increasing in the Arabian Sea. And one of the reasons is that the oceans are warming up. So the Arabian Sea compared to Bay of Bengal used to be relatively cooler. And while Bay of Bengal, like the information that is showed there before showed that is generally about 28 degrees Celsius, we call it a warm pool region. And cyclones draw their energy from these warm pool regions. And now Arabian Sea is also becoming a warm pool, supplying that additional heat and energy which it has acquired from global warming. So that is one thing we have seen. And another factor is that these cyclones are intensifying quite rapidly. So weak cyclones are intensifying into a super cyclone or extremely severe cyclone in less than 24 hours. So that is like when you are going to sleep, it's a weak cyclone, and when you wake up, it's like a severe cyclone at your doorstep. So that gives us less time to respond to its impacts. But the good thing I should say is that there is a positive behind it, that our forecast models have picked up the signals of these cyclones and the system way ahead, almost a week ahead, that the NDRF that we talked about, they were well prepared in time. So that is the positive news about it, despite all the...
No, that's absolutely true, because when the super cyclone hit Odisha in the early 2000s, at that time the warning wasn't as strong, and the mobilization, the evacuation wasn't strong either. Mahesh Palawat, I've covered Cyclone Phylane, and the one question I have, and I just want you to explain this to our viewers, why do these super cyclones, the severe cyclones, hit at night? Is it typically at night, or is this just one of those things, or by the time the winds come, or is it just one of those things that it's hitting at night but actually could hit at any time?
No, it is just a coincidence that super cyclone or extremely severe cyclone is hitting coast during night time. But this is not the case that it can happen any time. It may be in the morning hours, afternoon hours, or evening hours. It can be a coincidence. But this particular the extremely severe cyclone, which I've said this time, we have seen that it has intensified very rapidly from severe cyclone to very severe cyclone, and thereafter extremely severe cyclone. And the doctor has said rightly that Bay of Bengal was warmer than Arabian Sea. Now, due to global warming and climate change, Arabian Sea is also warming rapidly, leading to further intense and intensity and frequency of cyclones are increasing over Arabian Sea as well, and they are moving towards usually over Arabian Sea and have a tendency to move in northwest direction towards Oman and Yemen. But 2 to 3 out of 10 have a tendency to recur in northeasterly direction and towards sometimes Gujarat and Karachi and sometimes towards Maharashtra. Yeah.
How prepared would a city, Dr. Oxy, like Mumbai be? This was a near save, as it were, that the cyclone is going towards less populated areas in Gujarat, where there will be devastation, there will be destruction as a result, but it's not coming into as densely populated an area as Mumbai, where evacuation would be far tougher. Is Mumbai at all, is there a chance, you think, all your scientific models will say that there's a chance that the winds could actually hit landfall near Mumbai?
Well, as Arabian Sea becomes a hotbed and the storms, and it's not just storms. Our studies actually shows that intense heavy rainfall events, extreme rainfall events are also increasing because Arabian Sea is much active these days. So we are seeing as more and more events, more and more storms form in the Arabian Sea, the chances of them hitting the west coast, especially south in parts of Maharashtra, densely populated parts of Maharashtra like Mumbai, can't be ruled out. This was even earlier pointed out as a possibility as global warming moves along. And one important aspect is that we can't be certain about the tracks of cyclones that cyclones take in the future, because it all depends on how the upper level winds are. Cyclones have a vertical height of about 10-12 kilometers or more. So it all depends on how the steering winds, the winds that steer the cyclone in the upper levels are. So, and this can be anything during that time, in a particular time in the future. So it all depends on, if you have more and more cyclones, the chances of hitting in the west coast are more. And the thing is that we need to be much more prepared, because these kind of cyclones and extreme rainfall events are increasing. along with an increasing sea level rise. So we have, that's like a triple impact. So
No, sorry.
storms.
What? I didn't catch what you're saying. As well as increasing what?
Sea level. Sea level rise.
Okay. Sea level.
So the water level is increasing again. So that's like a triple impact. Okay. So we have a cyclone with strong winds lashing on the coast. Suppose we can imagine Mumbai is a case. So it is also bringing in a lot of water with the waves, and our observations and forecasts show that the waves are like 3 to 5 meter high along the Maharashtra coast, even near Mumbai. So along with that, we need to remember that there is a increasing sea level also. It's very gradual, but it's increasing with time. And on top of that, these cyclones are bringing heavy rainfall. So that's a triple impact where the coastal land near Maharashtra coast can be flooded for a longer time, making it difficult for us to respond to that or mitigate their impacts. So we need to have, and these events are going to increase in the future as Arabian Sea continues to warm, because there is no stop on the emissions so far. So that means we need to have a long-term vision. We need to strengthen our coastline. There are multiple ways to do that. So that's an action we can take.
Okay. So Dr. Roxy and Mahesh Palawat, thank you very much for joining us. Mumbai had a near miss today. A super cyclone just, going past towards the coast of Gujarat.
Pointed in a way, you all are trained now by having to deal with a series of cyclones over the last couple of years. In fact, Roxy Cole, as a meteorologist, we are seeing this. Last year this time we had Cyclone Amphan on the eastern coast, disturbances in the Bay of Bengal, and this time it's the western part of the country being hit. Gujarat in particular has been vulnerable in the past to cyclones. Give us a sense of the trajectory of this cyclone and how intense you see it as it makes a landfall.
Thanks, Rajdeep, for calling me to this important discussion on cyclones hitting the Indian coast. I should start with a positive note, saying that I was listening to your correspondent Vidya saying that there were almost no deaths over some of these regions in Mumbai, despite having such an extremely severe cyclone. Now, one stat I would like to say is that this is one of the extremely severe cyclone that we have ever seen so close to Mumbai since 1891. That is for the last 130 years. So it's such a severe cyclone and has come so close to Mumbai, but we are able to avoid so many deaths, and that is because the forecasts have improved over time. In fact, we got a signal about this system developing maybe almost a week back. And now we see that the NDRF and the local administration has worked together. But there are more challenges coming up. And like you rightly said, Arabian Sea is becoming a hotbed. And one of the reasons is that because of ocean warming. Cyclones draw their energy from the warm waters below. And we are seeing that compared to Bay of Bengal, which has been an active region, the Arabian Sea is warming much more rapidly than any other basins across the tropics. So that results in the number of cyclones increasing and the intensity of this cyclone increasing. And not only that, there's another factor here, important factor, challenging factor, and that is that these cyclones are intensifying rapidly. So from a weak cyclone to an extremely severe cyclone, that is around from 100 km per hour to 220 km per hour, that is happening in less than 24 hours. So that is a challenge we have to work on. Both the forecasts have to improve to capture that, and also on ground we may have to work on that.
So just very quickly, as the cyclone now makes a landfall somewhere around the Diu coast, while there's been a large-scale evacuation along, do you fear, Mr. Cole, that this is the kind of intense cyclone that can cause damage? And because some of these are areas that are habitated by fisher folk, fisher communities along the coastline in Veraval, in Diu, Do you fear the worst, or do you believe that we have, as the NDRF chief suggested, now practiced the art of evacuation almost to a fine art?
Well, I think the impact could be extremely severe, owing to the fact that this is a very severe cyclone, and even just before landfall, it is maintaining that status of severity. And IMT forecast and INCOI's forecast, they show that the waves could be strong from 3 meters to 5 meters. So that means these strong winds will push more water inland. And along with that, so this is like a triple impact. So you have a cyclone, which is bringing in a heavy rainfall and also strong winds. And on the background, the sea level is also rising. So all this put together, which will mean prolonged floods along the coastal region. So that is something we have to work on. We cannot keep on evacuating every time.
Right.
We cannot relocate buildings, residential areas, trains and buses and everything, right? So we need to do a risk assessment and have proper policies so that we have a resilient coastal region. We can work on our mangroves, these Mumbai, Goa, all these regions,
right.
Mangroves. So that is a natural defense that we can work on.
Right. Well, as I said, the landfall has only just been made a few minutes ago. We pray that the damage is minimal, and we pray for the lives and indeed the livelihoods of the people along the coastline. Roxy Cole and of course Mr. Pradhan, thank you so much for joining us. You have a long night ahead, Mr. Pradhan, and I wish you and your team very well. And once again, our thanks and gratitude as a nation to the NDRF, which seems to have mastered the art of coming in such situations and providing relief. So thank you very much for that. Let's, in a way, take off from what Roxy Cole suggested about the kind of damage the cyclone is doing along the coastline. Goa got a taste of it. Never before has Goa seen the kind of cyclonic winds it saw yesterday. Trees across North Goa in particular were destroyed in several parts.